Fishy Business, and this is the last in our series of how to set up the Biocube and all about the Biocube. And in this last segment, we're going to talk about the coolest part of having a Biocube, and that's the stuff you put in it. As you can see, we've got a tank set up. Everything's been done if you've watched the previous videos, but it's empty. So now, at this point, let's go find something to put in it. Okay, so where do we start with the Biocube? The first thing we want to do is deal with the nitrogen cycle. We're going to have to break that Biocube in, and one of the best ways and one of my preferred ways is with clownfish. Clownfish are a beautiful, extremely hardy fish that goes perfect with almost every other type of fish. Now in close quarters, fish, especially saltwater fish, are going to be a little bit more aggressive than typically they would be. And there are so many different varieties of clownfish to choose from, as you can see behind me now. Once the Biocube has been set up and everything is where it needs to be, if you choose to add some bacteria, clownfish are the perfect ammonia source to go with that to get your Biocube going. You may choose that you don't like clownfish, that you would rather try another fish to kind of break the tank in. Damselfish, which a clownfish is one of, are other options. You can see behind me these are Kupang damsels and Talbot damsels. There are many different kinds, some of which are better to cycle than others. There are domino damsels, there are just regular electric blue damsels that are really preferred to break in a tank. The thing about damsels though in a small environment is they can typically be extremely aggressive. So while perfect for breaking your tank in, make sure you get them from a store that will allow you to bring them back if they get aggressive toward anything that goes in with them. So whether you've chosen damselfish or clownfish, your tank at this point we're going to assume is cycled. Your tank is going to cycle fairly fast because you've used live sand, live salt water, and live rock. So now we get to the fun part, which is adding other things. We typically recommend no more than 3 to 4 fish in a Biocube. Now that is going to change with the age of the tank. For example, I have one account in service where I have 5 fish in it. The biggest thing with saltwater fish is to not push things too fast, go slow, and listen to the people at your local store that are trying to help you with your Biocube. Now let's see some other things you can put in your Biocube. So a great fish to start with is a yellow Watchman Gobi. Any of the Watchman Gobis are nice because they're going to stay in the sand, they're going to burrow, they might even get a little friend like this pistol shrimp right now. This is a fish that you can typically get very small, doesn't take up a lot of space, fantastic personality, and will just be a good all-over next fish. This is a very hardy species of fish. For the adventurous Biocube owner, you might find that you like a pistol shrimp combo with a type of goby. In this particular situation, this one's paired with a pink spot Watchman Gobi. They will build a little cave together and both will live in a friendly symbiotic relationship in your tank. You wouldn't typically think of a wrasse as being a really good fish for a small fish tank. However, this little Sixline Wrasse you see right here is one of my favorites. It's a long-lived variety of wrasse that does not get very big and can live its whole life in a Biocube. It stays out, it's got a ton of color for a very low price, and it's just a good all-over fish that won't compete with things like gobies and clownfish for territory and space. We've had a lot of luck keeping Sixline Wrasses in Biocubes over the years. Now I'm going to preface this with in my opinion. In my opinion, Cardinal fish, especially those of the pajama type and the Bangui cardinals, are some of the coolest fish to keep in a Biocube. One, because they'll kind of find their own space in the tank and they don't need a lot of running room. And 2, because they catch your eye and they're totally different than the other types of fish, both in body style and in kind of how they position themselves in a tank. Again, no real aggression between other types of fish like your clownfish and gobies and the Sixline Wrasse that we showed you. They're just an all-over cool fish that do great in a small quarter. You might not also think that an angelfish would be too appropriate for a Biocube, but we love pygmy angels in the Biocubes that we sell. Atlantic pygmy angel is one that is a very hardy little angelfish. It can be fairly long-lived. And in a Biocube, it'll have plenty of room. It doesn't compete with other fish in the same way, and so this is another great little option. Okay, so what you're looking at is a mandarin dragonette, probably one of the prettiest fish that we sell in the saltwater hobby. By no means is this an easy fish to keep, but I do want to show it for some of the more advanced people that might set up a Biocube that already have experience keeping fish. As long as you are willing to feed copepods and things like that, you can keep a mandarin in a Biocube. We typically recommend more live rock as there needs to be more spaces for more copepodic life, but this can be an okay fish if you want to keep it where you can visually see it more than you would in a larger reef tank. A lot of people choose to put Pseudochromis in small tanks like this. The one thing that I'm going to say about Pseudochromis, whether it's a Royal Brahma, whether it's a strawberry Pseudochromis, or any of the many different types that you can get, if you choose to put this in your Biocube, it should be the last fish. And the reason is because they are aggressive and territorial, and you don't need them establishing any kind of dominance before adding other fish. They can be aggressive, they are by nature aggressive, even though they're cute and beautiful and all of that, they can work in a Biocube. But definitely be smart about how you add them. And for me, I would add them last. That is by no means a complete list of what you can put in a Biocube. It's just a few fish families and a general idea of what you can do. Now let's talk about invertebrates. Okay, my number one shrimp, or my number one invertebrate rather, to add in any Biocube is a cleaner shrimp. This is my favorite invertebrate in the world because they are so personable. They actually do a good thing by cleaning fish. They'll even clean you if you let them. Cleaner shrimp have great personalities. They stay out, they don't hide, and they're one of the more affordable invertebrates to have in a tank. And in a Biocube, you can have several. Sri Lanka is probably one of the most beautiful shrimps in the hobby, and that is the fire shrimp or blood shrimp. These come a long way, but they're very beautiful. They're a little more reclusive than the cleaner shrimp. They're a little more expensive typically than a cleaner shrimp, but they are no less more beautiful, and they're no less great to have in your tank. Depending on how densely populated your Biocube is with rock, as you can add more rock than what we've shown in the video, you may want to try a coral-banded shrimp. They can be a little aggressive sometimes, certainly not toward the fish, but toward other invertebrates, but it's still a very cool, inexpensive invertebrate that will work in a Biocube. Okay, what you're seeing here is the sand erupt with Asteria snails. Asteria snails are fantastic because they oxygenate the sand. They kind of keep things busy with what's happening underneath your reef tank, and they're fun to watch if you have a bunch of them in there and you decide to feed the tank. As you can see, these little tubes that are sticking out of the sand are Asteria snails. Release the Kraken! In my opinion, the best algae eater for any saltwater aquarium is the Asteria snail. Why do I like them? They're small and they don't knock things over. They typically stay very busy in the tank. You can put a ton of them in a tank without putting a heavy load on the tank, and they are great for the Biocube. You absolutely have to have an urchin in your tank. A pencil urchin's pretty good. Now, in a small Biocube, urchins are very likely to knock things down and over, but if you've secured them very well, a pencil urchin is a very long-lived urchin compared to other urchins that can work in a smaller space. Some of you may choose to set up a Biocube that doesn't involve keeping corals at all, and if that's the case, a small chocolate chip star would be a great starfish to keep. These are very hardy starfish that if you get small, will actually come take food out of your hand. They can be great in an invertebrate-only tank or a tank where you don't have super aggressive fish, and the Biocube is perfect for this, again, if you don't have corals, as they will eat them. Okay, so to break down individual corals that would be good in a Biocube and try to have a conversation about each one in any kind of detail would push this video way beyond your listening and watching limits. So what I'm going to do is give you an overview of beginning corals that I think would be good in a Biocube, and you can expound on this as you get further along with the Biocube. So in the very beginning, especially especially when you're just getting started out, or if you don't have a lot of experience keeping corals, things like your mushroom corals, Sinularia leathers, and things like that would be fantastic corals to start with. We personally here can keep Xenia, I think, in anything, probably even a paper cup. So that would be a beautiful coral that you can put in a Biocube. Green star polyps are still probably one of my favorite corals that you could possibly have. And yes, all of these corals, in theory, will grow and outgrow the tank. But as long as you keep them culled back a little bit, you can have a beautiful underwater garden of many different animals and fish that are really pleasing. Things like blastomusas as well, zoanthids, palithoa, anything like this is going to be a good hardy coral to kind of start with. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them as well as I can. A lot of what you're going to keep with different species of corals is going to depend on how good you are as far as keeping corals. If you're young, inexperienced, and you haven't done a lot of things with corals, start out with something easy. If you're more experienced, you can push your Biocube as far to the limit as you want to. And I'm going to show you one that's been pushed pretty far right now. It's a Biocube where we've added a GNC Light, and it's been set up for about 2 years. You can see all the things that you can do if you decide to quote-unquote pimp your Biocube. This overview has given you some insight to how to set up, how to keep, how to maintain a Biocube. Obviously, I know there's probably 1,000 questions we haven't answered, and especially when it comes to saltwater, there will probably be 1,000 more that you'll have. But if you do, you're welcome to ask us questions. We'll try to answer them as quick as we can. There are a lot of things I didn't touch on, but the generalities of keeping a Biocube, I think we did. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please stay tuned as we'll be doing more self-help videos. And one last thing I'd like to say about the Biocube, which we haven't touched on at all. Yeah, you can use it for a freshwater planet aquarium.